So what are we talking about tonight? What are we actually talking about
tonight?
That matters?
Yes.
We're talking about the power of
empathy.
Say it one more time.
The power of empathy.
Empathy. Everybody just say it as you're watching. On the count of 3. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Empathy. That's what we're talking about. Empathy. And here's the definition of empathy. For those of you who are not familiar with the specifics of this word.
Which is different than sympathy.
Very different than sympathy.
Yes. Empathy is very different.
Different than a symphony.
Okay.
Kate just said you need to watch this. Kate is right. We all need to watch this, okay? Here's the definition.
It becomes easier for others.
Definition of empathy is this. It's the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference. That is, the capacity to place oneself in another's position.
Whether they've experienced that or not.
Actually, I would even say, particularly when you have not experienced it.
Right.
I actually don't think empathy is possible if you've experienced
right,
the
because
same
that'd be
thing.
sympathy.
Right, it's sympathy. We share that.
Yes.
We've actually been through the same thing. Empathy is only possible when you have a difference of experience. We are not the same. We have not been through the same thing. So now empathy is required because I have to be able to put myself in your position. I have to try to understand how you feel and feel what you feel.
Right.
That, my friends, is, say it with me now, empathy.
And that, I feel like that is for married people, but that's for anybody.
For any relationship.
Whatever season of life that you're in, whether
That's right.
you're in a relationship or you're not.
Everybody's in relationships, right? So we need empathy. Empathy is not like, it's not one of those things that only applies to married people. No matter the relationship you're in, it will require empathy. Let me prove it to you. You work with somebody. That person has had experiences you have never had. Guess what your working relationship will depend on? Say it with me. Empathy. If you have kids, guess what? You need to have empathy for your kids.
I think before you have kids, you don't ever really think about that.
No. You
right?
don't
you're just
think of them as little humans.
Right. And like we've said before, the kids that we've created are like, sometimes we look at each other, we'll all be on the couch and we just look at each other and we're like, there's just multiple little human beings
just living in our house.
Sitting on our couch living, and they need us. They're not babies. They're growing humans, and we need to be empathetic towards them.
They've got their own personalities, their own psyches. They need, say it with me, empathy. Okay, and there are 3 types of empathy. Ashley, what's the first type of empathy?
So the first one is cognitive.
Cognitive.
Empathy.
Mental. This is intellectual empathy. Here's an example of cognitive empathy. If you've ever been in a discussion with somebody, or maybe like an argument, so to speak, cognitive empathy would be you try to actually understand their viewpoint, not just try to share yours. So have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you can tell they aren't really listening to you? They're just waiting for you to stop talking so they can tell you something? Anybody ever been there? Throw a thumbs up in the comments if you've ever been there. That's because they were not practicing cognitive empathy. They were not trying to intellectually understand your position, and
this is one of those things that doesn't come really natural.
Right.
It's not like when you're having a conversation with someone and you're disagreeing about it, your first instinct is not to be empathetic towards them. You're like wheels spinning. We come from our own life experience, our own situations, and we're like, I'm going to tell you how it actually is, or how I feel like it actually is.
Yeah, we don't.
So
it's so much more work to try and understand someone else's point of view.
Yeah.
Because you already understand yours.
Right.
It doesn't take work. You know what you believe.
Right.
It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of intellectual rigor to understand where someone else is actually coming from on a cognitive level.
Do we have an example of this in like our marriage or with our kids?
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. One of the areas we're going to talk about how you can practice empathy is actually highly involves this area, this form of empathy. It's cognitive empathy. So we're going to get there.
Cognitive empathy.
What's the second type of empathy?
The second type is emotional.
Emotional.
Emotional empathy.
Emotional empathy. Anybody ever get accused of being too emotional? Not Ashlee. She doesn't have emotions.
Like a rock, people.
Like a rock. No.
Whatever, that's so untrue. I'm a 2. I feel all of the things. So.
Right. Yeah, some people get accused of not being emotional enough, but here's the
Right.
reality. We are all emotional beings. And so every relationship requires emotional empathy. And here's an example of emotional empathy. Emotional empathy is when you not only intellectually understand someone, but it's when you actually feel what they feel. I'm going to give you prime number 1 example. Have you ever cried just because someone around you cried?
Absolutely.
Happens all the time, right? Like I could see someone cry in a movie and I will probably cry.
You're kind of an emotional
Okay,
guy.
don't do that to me and with all of our friends.
It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But Daniel will, like even during commercials, and I'm super pregnant right now, so I appreciate like when I cry at like a Johnson & Johnson commercial, it's like it's
I'm there with
nothing,
you.
but you're right there
I'm
with
right there
me.
with you.
And I'm like,
seriously.
Thanks, babe.
But like honestly, have you ever been in one of those tender, intimate conversations with a friend where they're talking about something deep and then all of a sudden they start to cry and you're like, and you just start to cry. Why do you do that? That is emotional empathy. It's when literally what they feel transfers to you. That you're able to feel what they feel. And we just got a shout out from one of my favorite all-time people, Justin Bogley. An incredible worship leader. Little known secret about him, he shot our wedding photos. So if you've ever seen our wedding photos, it's that legend who did them.
I think that we were his first ever wedding.
And we were awesome.
And we were.
Meaning he was awesome.
Exactly.
Brian Brink, what a legend, is on Facebook right now. Brian knows empathy, I promise you. So, we got cognitive empathy, we've got emotional empathy. Ashlee, what's the third kind of empathy?
Compassionate
empathy. And here's what compassionate empathy essentially is: the goal. It's the ultimate, it's the kind of empathy we should all strive for. Because it only comes when you combine intellectual empathy and emotional empathy, and then the combination of intellectual empathy and emotional empathy results in action.
It moves you.
It moves you.
Moves you.
It's when you are literally moved to respond, to act, because you have so thoroughly put yourself in another person's position. That's empathy, my friends.
That's so good.
Say it with me now, people. Are you ready? Empathy.
I feel like we say our words so many times that people don't. Here's a question. This was from 2 weeks ago. This is like a little quiz.
Okay.
You ready for it?
I feel like you're about to derail us. I'm nervous.
I'm going to.
Hey, this
for
is your
just
show
a
too.
minute.
You're a co-host. You're not a guest.
Do we remember
the
word in the part of our brain
That's good.
that we talked about 2 weeks ago?
That's a good question. That didn't.
Bro, I know.
I like that
Sometimes
question.
I feel like he doesn't trust me. Like I'm good for singing. Like I have some deep stuff happening.
Oh, I will be the first person to say that. You're like a hidden gem of wisdom
Listen.
and discernment. Yes, Alyssa Yuri got it on
Alyssa gets a
Instagram.
point.
Does anybody on Facebook remember?
I still can't spell it.
Does anybody on Facebook remember what was the name for the part of the brain we talked about last week?
Matt got it.
Matt Wright got it, and he actually spelled it right. But Alyssa, I'm going to give it to you. Anybody remember on Facebook?
I'm looking at the word and I'm sounding it out in my mind.
You kept getting it confused with the medulla oblongata.
I know.
Which is a line from
And who
Waterboy.
is the
Something's
figure
wrong.
skater?
Hakuna Matata.
Who's the figure skater that has a
Figure skater.
Christy Kabaga something?
Yamaguchi?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Christy Yamaguchi. People want to hear you say it, but nobody's commented on Facebook yet. Maybe nobody here on Facebook was here 2 weeks ago. We did skip a week because of Elliot's birthday. Sorry, I'm not sorry about that.
We have an 8-year-old now.
Not sorry about that.
It is the amygdala.
Amygdala.
Got it.
And what
I had to say it 3
happens
times
with the
before I said it out
amygdala
loud.
is the amygdala hijack. It's called the
Have you been
amygdala.
hijacked?
Hijacked. But that was 2 weeks ago. Okay, so we're just gonna look back, and then now we're back
Sorry,
here.
we're
Okay?
back. We're back on
locked in. We're talking about empathy. We're talking about emotional empathy.
Yep.
We're talking about cognitive empathy, and we're talking about compassionate empathy. But here's where we want to close. We want to get really practical and talk about them. In relationships, there are actually 3 areas where you can practice these kinds of empathy. You can practice empathy in these 3 areas in your relationship. Area number 1 is what, Ash?
Your family of origin.
That's right.
So if you're a married person, you were brought up in 2 different families. Maybe they were really similar. You know, like you had certain things in common. Both of your families were the same religious background. You grew up kind of the same. You went to the same type of school. But some of us did not grow up the same.
Nobody did.
And I think when you come into a marriage or a dating or whatever type of relationship, it all kind of comes out real quick. Like we are from different. It's like the most beautiful thing because we are all different, and that's what makes marriage so special.
That's
is
right.
We're learning about each other, but it can get you.
Yeah. So, family of origin. And it's not just for married people.
Right.
Everybody has a family of origin.
Yes.
And Aubrey knows about this because we talk about this in our Christ Fellowship Leadership College a lot. The importance of, we actually have people map out their family of origin going back 3 generations, and the patterns and the problems and the issues and the good things and the bad things. Anyway, Billy Blatz asked, have we heard of Dr. Caroline Leaf? I have heard of her, Billy.
I've heard of her.
I haven't looked into much of her work. Thank you for that recommendation. Okay, anyway, back on track. Thank you though, Billy.
I'm gonna check it out.
Family of origin is so important, and this is one of the main ways you can actually express intellectual empathy. And these are, I'm going to give some silly examples, and then maybe we'll talk about some more serious ones.
Yeah, we got serious ones.
Silly example, but gets real life. And married people, throw me a fist bump in the comments if this has ever gotten real life in your marriage. How you load the dishwasher. How you load the dishwasher.
Do you or do you not hang up your towels?
Do you or do you not? Oh, here's one. Do you throw a once-used towel into the dirty laundry, or do you hang it and reuse it?
Do you take stuff out? Like, for example, you make yourself lunch. Do you put it away, or do you let it stay?
But it's, yeah, which one do you...
What do you do?
Do you, when you put the toilet paper roll in, does the paper come from above, or does it come from beneath?
The right answer is above.
Family of origin, man.
What did your family do?
I don't know.
Well, I will tell you that the last time you loaded the toilet paper, it was from underneath.
I feel like that's my family of origin right here. That's how I was taught.
You can comment on this. Growing up, did you load?
It comes from underneath.
No.
Yeah.
It needs air to hang. Like it's like ready for you to grab it. I don't want to go searching for it.
I disagree. And see, those are silly examples. Can I give a much more serious example?
Yeah,
a
let's
real
go
example. How you communicate is highly informed by your family of origin. Let me give you an example. If Bob Young is still watching, he could amen this. Okay?
Never underneath.
The style of communication my dad and I grew up with was argument. We would argue, and it didn't mean we were mad. It didn't mean that we didn't like each other. It just was how we communicated. It was almost like a way we bonded, was arguing.
Like debating?
Debating. Yeah. Discussing, communicating passionately what I believe, and explaining directly why you're wrong. Yeah. I just got really distracted by a comment that Jordan Flagg put on Facebook.
Which, Jordan?
I don't know what that means.
I think he's saying underneath is not cool. Beards hang from the front, mullets from the back are not cool. Okay. Always from above, Mom.
I'm open to change. Okay. Anyway, so when Ashlee and I got married, guess how I tried to communicate with my new bride? Argue. I looked for it every opportunity.
I'm like, what's up? Can you
disagree with me on one thing?
You don't always have to be right. It's,
Yeah, and so I would try to argue. And she comes from a certain family of origin. I come from a 2-child household. She comes from a 4-child household. You know what I mean? And it goes back generations. And one way that you can exercise empathy is to understand where the person you're in relationship with, whether it's your spouse, your kids. Well, you probably know their family of origin because it's you.
You made them.
Your spouse, people you work with, your friends.
Yeah.
Understanding their family of origin informs their behavior. Mm-hmm. That's intellectual empathy.
That's good.
Second area we can exercise empathy is what, Ash?
Our personality hardwiring.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is a really great opportunity to exercise emotional empathy, but also intellectual a little bit too.
Yeah.
But it's more about understanding why does the person you're in a relationship, why do they feel the way they feel? So we've talked tiny little bit about the Enneagram in the past, but Enneagram is a perfect opportunity for you to express emotional empathy. Ashley, what are some examples of the way the Enneagram in our marriage has helped us express emotional empathy?
Has helped us?
Yeah.
So I'm a 2, which is like helper. I don't know. What's the best number? And then, just kidding. And then Daniel's a 7. So what is that?
The number of the Lord.
The perfection.
Why'd you say it like that?
I don't know. Because it's not. But it's, how has it helped us?
Particularly when it comes to like feeling what the other person
I feel like
feeling.
you're thinking of something that I'm not thinking of.
I'm just wondering what you're thinking of. I'm a little better at thinking on my feet than you, so
So
it was a little bit rude
here's
that I
the
put you
thing.
on the spot.
That's a difference between our personality.
Yeah.
As a 2, I need time to like
Process.
really process it, think about, because usually 2s don't think about themselves very often because they're helpers, so they like to think about other people and how they're doing in life.
I got it. That just sparked in me what it is.
What is
the example? Are you ready?
Got it.
It's a super good example to me. Everyone watching is going to be like, that example was but all right, so how the Enneagram helped me express emotional empathy toward Ashley, helped me feel what she's feeling, is one of the most consistent sources of frustration whenever we would discuss feelings, is we would get to this point and I would say, why do you feel that way? Or what are you feeling? And Ashley would say, what?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling.
Probably the 3 most frustrating words for somebody who, as a 7, all I do is pay attention to how I'm feeling and why I feel it so that I don't have to feel any negative emotions. So I've spent my entire life just scanning up and down. Am I having fun? Is this cool? Am I having a good time? And if not, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
But not Ashley.
No.
It's a foreign land to her. Processing her inner self is a foreign land to her. So she would say, I don't know. And I would be like, how? How do you not know what you are feeling and why? Like, it didn't make sense to me until the Enneagram.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't have a lot of inner dialogue happening.
Right.
A lot. Interesting, which is like super foreign to you.
Yeah, it's so weird. I feel
But
like
I
can't
would. He would
stop the inner dialogue.
I feel like he is like, we know, like really good with the words. He's a speaker, so it comes super naturally for him, and he just has the ability to like, and maybe it's because of how you were brought up with communicating with your family. Like, you always had something like this because that's the style that you grew up in. Like, you always had to come back for something. I feel like we didn't communicate like that in our family.
Yeah.
So
what Enneagram helped me do, though, was not just understand where you come from. It actually helped me feel what you feel.
Right.
So when you would say, I don't know, I wouldn't get mad at you or frustrated. I would be like, oh. Like, I can actually feel that. I can feel that, like, she's not saying that to push me away. She's genuinely confused. And so now my role is not to be frustrated with her. My role is to help be like a guide or a coach to help her navigate her emotions.
Yeah. And I feel like throughout our marriage, in the last, it'll be 10 years this year, it hasn't always been like that, but in the last few years when we kind of came to figure all this out, has been such a game changer.
Yeah.
And I feel like it takes the pressure off of me too, because I'm like, thank you for understanding that I can't answer that totally right now.
Right.
I need some time to think about it, but I will think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So in our family of origin is a fantastic area to exercise intellectual empathy. I'm understanding from a cognitive level where you come from, the patterns of behavior, where all that originates. And it is in our personality hardwiring is a great opportunity to exercise emotional empathy. Here's a great example for me that I need to remind myself of. When your children are having a meltdown is an absolutely perfect time to exercise emotional empathy.
And it's so hard to do.
Try to put yourself in their position. They don't know what you know. They haven't been taught what you've been taught. You have years of learning things that they don't have. And I am preaching to no one but me right now. Because I lack emotional empathy with our kids in a significant level.
There are times where I feel like you'll be talking to our kids, and I'm like, Daniel, please just remember that he's an 8-year-old boy. He doesn't know this. Like, that's what we're for, to teach him these things. But it's so hard in the moment to not be like, how do you not understand this?
Yeah.
Like,
how do you not?
How about like when you have to read with our kids? Teaching our kids to read was like,
no, I couldn't do it.
Daniel, I'm just like, you know what?
Couldn't do it.
I will fully embrace.
I had to tap out.
And take this piece over. It's like, they would, reading. If you're a parent and you sit with a child that's learning how to read, you just get ready for it. It's going to take some time.
Yep.
But I'm like, I'll take it. It's
so
fine.
we've got the areas where we can practice cognitive empathy is really in our family of origin. We can practice emotional empathy, particularly by feeling what the person we're in a relationship with is on the area of their personality hardwiring. And then the final area is really not so much an area, but it's instances. And it is literally situational. Situational empathy. And it's whatever situation you are in with someone else. Can you, on the spot, in that moment, slow down enough to ask yourself, am I being empathetic or just pathetic? Am I being empathetic or just pathetic? Because being pathetic just means you're feeling things a lot. Being empathetic means you're putting yourself in the position and feeling what the other person is feeling. Whatever the situation, whatever happens, do you have the ability to slow down, press pause, and ask yourself, am I being empathetic or just pathetic?
Yeah. That is good.
Empathy. Let's say it together. Are you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Empathy.
Empathy.
And I feel like it crosses multiple areas of our life. So it's marriage and parenting. Maybe it's debating someone that has a different viewpoint than you.
Yep.
Showing them empathy and love. Like, so hard to do. Maybe it's so relationships. Important. Who knows?
So important.
But
It's
it's such
essential.
it's essential.
I feel you. Here, I just thought of one more area I'm going to share, and then we're going to transition to the Q&A portion of Real Talk Tuesday.
You're so excited for the Q&A portion.
I'm so excited for this
He
to
wants
turn
to use
blue
thoughts.
on Instagram. One of the areas I had to grow majorly in my empathy is Ashlee when she's pregnant.
Ooh. That is such a great example.
Is that not so true? By baby number 4, how much more empathetic am I with number 4?
You guys, can we talk about it? This is not to throw you under the bus because you
No.
are amazing. But this is true.
You can't throw me under the bus. I have leapt under the bus.
Okay.
This is me jumping under the bus.
So our son Elliot, he's 8 years old. 8 years ago when he came into this world.
8 years.
And let's just go back even a little further.
8
9
and 9
months before. Okay, I was sick as a dang dog from the moment I found out I was pregnant with Elliot till basically he came out.
That's right.
And so, I remember, I was, sorry, this is TMI, but throwing up multiple times a day.
Yep.
It was a very, very hard experience. And I remember one day, I'm literally feeling like total crap. Daniel comes over to me on the couch, and it's the kind of like I've been there for so long that like I like took my bun out and it stayed. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like I did not move the couch. I was just laying there feeling miserable. And Daniel came over and was basically like, what did you say? And do you remember?
No.
Very clear in my mind.
I honestly think you're about to conflate two different stories.
Well, this one will actually work perfectly.
I think you're about to mix a story from Elliot and Emerson together.
What? No. No.
Let's be honest.
He came over and basically was like, basically said to me, are you actually sick?
Yep, that happened with Emerson, not Elliot.
No, it happened with Elliot too.
No.
Okay.
I didn't know enough to ask you that with Elliot.
He probably just yelled at me and been like, where's dinner? And I'm like, I've been throwing up all day. Get yourself some dinner.
Phil McMillan. By the way, Phil, I love you so much. Phil just commented on Facebook. He said, stop drinking, you're pregnant. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Ashley,
reckless.
relax. You're
It's
so
ridiculous.
reckless.
Put the cigarette down.
No, but it was like that. Like,
No, I was getting frustrated and chippy with you because I did not have a mental category for nausea that lasted more than 6 weeks. And so I was just intolerant, no empathy. I was the worst. But the story you're telling
okay, so that was one child.
was actually with Emerson.
Here's
and
the
that,
third.
I actually would defend that. And we don't have time for me to defend that, so we're going to move on. Okay.
But there wasn't, so I get kind of sick with my pregnancy. So anyways, Daniel came over and asked me the same question.
This was
are you
me
actually sick, or are you just not wanting to do stuff? And
Okay.
I'm like, I'm gonna.
That is an attempt at empathy. I was exercising empathy. Instead of being passive aggressive with you and being frustrated, I just said, and I prefaced it with like, this could be really offensive to you. I need you to know I don't mean it. I just need to talk about what this is. I just need to hear you say it. Are you actually super sick, or are you milking it a little bit? That's what I said.
All the pregnant moms.
Okay, we're moving to the Q&A portion.
We should.
Pete Morse is on.
People start getting upset with you.
Pete, love you. All right, we're going to the
Pete.
now that we have concluded our content about empathy. Hopefully, you have learned something about empathy, and you will ask yourself, "Am I being empathetic or just pathetic?" Okay, Q&A.